Hey everybody, so I hope you're keeping really well. So just a slightly esoteric video I suppose this time. Um, Sharpening, big old subject, and I don't want to get bogged down too much in it, but just wanted to take a look at this old oilstone. And I think things like this can get overlooked sometimes, but I'm not sure why that is perhaps. Maybe it's something that's sometimes all around us we kind of ignore, or I'm not sure. But this one wasn't particularly expensive. It was about £25 on eBay, and what I've had to do is to flatten it. And my suspicion is I'm no sharpening stone expert, but I'd expect that to be a Washita stone, great oil stone kind of thing where you can just have one for your honing and that's it. Not that kind of thing that you see nowadays, which is quite commonplace to have progressions of grits and that side of it. A lot of books you'd kind of see early doors were just you got a stone and you honed and you got on with your job. No right way to do it, but that way interests me. Some of the details I really like about it is when you look here into the lid. You know, this is not just hoiked out by a machine. Somebody's taken some time to really carefully chisel this out. This is just less than 1/4 of an inch. And if I take a real careful look, I can see that there's a little bit of a split start in there, which is it's kind of reassuring. You know, it's had a life. It's been used. It's not pristine, and there's so much more character in this than there is a plastic case for a man-made waterstone. Beautiful little chamfer around the top there, a lovely rich colour to the top, and just the time somebody's taken to put this curve in the bottom. It's a nice little statement. I had made some years ago a kind of version quite similar. This is by no means as delightful as that one. This is very, very nice, but this has just got an 8x2 synthetic oilstone in it. But I saw a picture of one of those in an old book and I thought it's kind of nice to do. On mine I've got a couple of finish nails cut in there, so when it's in the bench it doesn't move around. That was just the top moving, but it's clamped down so it doesn't dance about. This one doesn't have it, and it's very narrow. Not all stones are 3 inches wide and all that kind of thing, and a lot of people think, well, how am I going to sharpen a plane iron? Well, it's not too difficult. You just got to skew it and just use all the stone. Now, it took a little while to flatten it off, and it was quite interesting doing that. You kind of went down through the layers of how the previous individual had worked with it, and that was again, like I said, this is esoteric. I mean, who on earth on a Saturday night flattens off a stone and wonders about the layers that come off and what that person did? But yeah, that's what I did. So yeah, I thought I'd do a little hone and go and just, sharpen on an old oilstone. Does the internet need that? Probably not. My honing oil is just any kind of mineral oil or baby oil. That's kind of good for me. And one of the things I do like about oilstones, and I know they're not everybody's cup of tea, is you've always got that light coating of oil on your tools. If you use a waterstone solution for your sharpening, quite often you've got to come in there and wipe surfaces down and make sure the rust's kept at bay, but that doesn't tend to be so much the problem. And it's just a lovely colour as well. I mean, when you've got something, I think the Norton India is one of my favourite stones, certainly to recommend to anybody as a beginner. But the colour of a natural stone is a delight, and you can see it's cutting pretty rapidly. I've got metal swarf coming off there, no problem. Feels really nice. I've just got a bit of a burr building up. Truth be told, this plane iron could probably do with a bit of a grind, so it would raise a burr a little quicker. That'll do it. Okay, Now, when I started work, you do hand stropping, and I'm loath to demonstrate that because the way the world is these days, who knows where it would end. So the way I would normally strop is to, these days, because it's safer if you've got to show somebody, is something like a block of wood or a piece of leather, a bit of Oilstone, and I've started to thin it a little bit with oil. And you can just chase off any remnants of a burr. And I've been advised by somebody, and I'll link their channel in the YouTube version of this video, and they sent me some pictures and said that, I'm not saying this is the case with my particular routine here, but with Oilstone you're pretty much getting an 8000 grit finish. So that was quite reassuring to know, and it's probably why I've been pretty happy with my edges. So we'll pop that one back in the plane, and we'll take a few shavings. I've picked a pretty compliant timber, and I'm not going for the Hollywood style shavings. It's obviously pleasant to be able to take a fine shaving, and it's a lovely demonstration of something that's working well, but at the same time doesn't really get anything made. So if I can get everything in shot there. Excuse it, I don't fancy doing any video editing. There we go. The nice thing is, things like cherry are very compliant timbers to work with, especially when the grain is straight. Very difficult with my dreadful lighting setup, but there, that's not bad. You can kind of see how lovely and bright the surface is. That's something I'm sure a lot of us do when we use edge tools. The last project I finished, no abrasives used, and that's not to show off, nothing wrong with using abrasives, but I had water spilled on one of the items that I made, and even when putting the finishing on, you get no grain raise because all the surfaces are cut, there's no rough abrading. So yeah, purpose of the video, I think it's well worth looking at a vintage stone. The only thing you'll need to do is probably have some PSA, which is just pressure sensitive abrasive, which is like sticky backed abrasive, so you can stick down to a flat surface. Again, I'm not somebody who's super panicky about everything being dead flat, but it's nice to have something from new, and then your tools evolve to follow any, irregularities. And I think it's not to forget what's maybe part of your culture on your doorstep. So not knocking any sharpening system at all, but I suppose a piece of float glass with some abrasive on it doesn't float my boat. A beautiful handmade box does. A generic man-made water stone in a plastic case doesn't look attractive to me as a beautiful natural stone, and I'm never going to wear that out. Never. and £25, and I've always got pressure sensitive abrasive on hand, because if I'm going to revamp a few old tools, it's super useful for that. So yeah, highly recommend. The only thing is to look out for something, so my only tips I suppose, is look for something that does look narrow and maybe a little bit longer than usual. And it's quite common to do that, and then you're going to find something that's more likely to be a natural stone. If you go for something that's exactly 8x2 or something, or it looks quite orange, it looks a bit more like that, you're just going to get an India stone, and if that's a bit hollowed out, by the time you've flattened it, you may as well buy a new one. They're not that expensive. So yeah, give the old vintage stones a look.